TWSN Patreon page. Here we will provide you with the sports betting tips, picks, and information in order for you to become a successful gambler. We have 5 packages that I think really do an incredible job of providing the information tailored to you, what you want, and what your sports betting needs are. For more information, reach out to the TWSN team, but we have a ton of stuff coming your way. Content from fantasy football, sports betting for UFC, NBA, NHL, and of course, the NFL. We are so excited to be able to bring this service to you, and let us know if there's any more information you need.
Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now because it's the place that it all goes down on.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the TWSN Off the Top Rope Show. I'm your host, Justin Lastratosa, joined by my co-host, as always, Matt Blaustein. We were off last week. Matt was in New York City, so we're back here again, right near WrestleMania season, so we're going to talk a lot about that today. But, Matt, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I think a lot of news broke, honestly, right when I boarded my flight for New York. So I actually got off the flight at 11:40 p.m. and I was like, oh my God, a lot happened. So I'm ready to talk some of it, though. It was a big week in professional wrestling.
Yeah, so am I, and really a lot happened. WrestleMania, even though I'm not as excited for this one as years past because of, obviously, as I've said before, in other shows, the main event, but I'm getting really excited for it as a whole because it is WrestleMania and it's the biggest event of the year. So I'm really excited for it, but we'll get more into WrestleMania later. But before we start, everyone subscribe to the TWSN YouTube channel. If you like daily live shows like this, we have it for every single sport, every single day. So go subscribe. We also have video breakdowns from our team here. And also download the TWSN mobile app. We have articles coming out every single day for every single sport from our team of 50+. So go download the app and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at TWSN. And subscribe to the TWSN Betting Patreon, where if you chip in a couple bucks, you gain a couple bucks. It's that simple. They're doing great over there. They always have. So go subscribe to the Betting Patreon, and let's just get it started. And we're going to start off with some pretty bad news, and really this is something that I didn't really want to break today at all. But, I mean, I feel like we have to because this is a legend of the business that just passed away, and that's Scott Hall, a.k.a. Razor Ramon. In my opinion, although I wasn't around for his time, one of the best to ever do it in the sport of professional wrestling. And it's really heartbreaking because no one really saw it coming at all. And it just hit everyone because, I mean, this is a guy that everyone adored in the wrestling industry. Whether you worked with him or didn't, you adored him. And so many guys learned so much from him. So it really sucks. But, I mean, we could just go on a tribute for him, you know, really what he meant to us as fans as a whole, and also what he did for the business and some of his best moments and your favorite moments. So, Matt, I want to kick it off to you.
Yeah, sorry, give me a second. My blinds are falling. But no, I mean, the loss of Scott Hall is astronomical. I think a lot of people don't really realize when they just comprehend about the independent scene these days and contracts and exclusivity and just the world of independent wrestling compared to WWE. Scott Hall was with Kevin Nash, first guys to go over and switch into WCW, but also they really fought for the rights of fellow wrestlers. I mean, they were one of the first to like really demand that hype contract from a non-WWE setting. They were the first to really fight WWE on their pricing, on their contracts. And like, I think for Scott Hall, I think in his case, when I heard about it, and when I heard about even the hip injury that he got, I think it was a month or two back, that kind of worried me a little just because of his history. I think the one thing here is, and you know, it sucks to even say this, but like it's kind of a relief in a way that, you know, he passed from a medical incident instead of what it could have been if he did not find help. It really sucks because Scott was a guy who, even at his low, I don't really recall a single time that anyone really felt harassed ever by him in wrestling. He had his own demons, but he also was not afraid to put people over. In your era of Hogans and Warriors who were unwilling to put younger talent over, and unwilling to really work with younger talent and help them grow, Scott Hall was the one guy who was really willing to kind of give people a boost. You could point to his loss to the 1-2-3 Kid who had become X-Pac as an example of that. But he was someone who, in every sense of the word, wanted to make everyone feel welcome, and he wanted to make everyone feel special, and he understood wrestling like no one else. He was the person who reportedly, even Sting came out and said it a few days ago, saying that he was the one who came up with Sting's Crow gimmick, where, if he didn't come up with that, probably one of the most legendary gimmicks in all professional wrestling history would not have been there. He was the founder of the NWO with Kevin Nash. I'm not even going to throw Hogan in there because that was mainly Nash and Hall's brainchild. But like, you look at all the stuff that this man did for the professional wrestling industry, and you have to just, without him, the world's a lot more bleak. And this isn't like, I haven't even covered at all his personal talent in the ring. The guy always looked really small next to Kevin Nash, but people didn't really understand. The guy was 6'7", so he was already still a massive human being. He just looked very small next to Kevin Nash, but he was an absolutely mammoth of a man in every single word. He pioneered a bunch of matches for wrestling. The Razor's Edge power bomb, which came to be used by The Undertaker as, I forgot what the power bomb was called, but the last ride power bomb, that was pioneered by Razor Ramon. Damian Priest is now doing it in a tribute to him. That was pioneered by him. Roman Reigns did it for a little bit, but that power bomb was pioneered by him. As was the ladder match with Shawn Michaels. They had the first ladder match in WWE mainstream wrestling history at WrestleMania 10 for the Intercontinental title, and that's one of the greatest matches of all time. I believe that's the first match from WWE that ever got the 5 stars from Dave Meltzer. So that really says a lot just about how this guy could go in the ring. His character work, he was always a guy who, he was a heel most of his career, but like his gimmick of Razor Ramon never really came across as a douchebag. He was just cool and didn't give a shit about anyone. Like, he was just cool and cocky. But like, this man, I think what he's going to be remembered for most is just how you can't, when someone is going through an issue of drug or alcohol abuse, you can't really say it's the be all end all. You need to give them a chance, and you need to give them a chance to rehabilitate. And if you reach out and help, he really took advantage of every single ounce of help that he got from others. And so when, DDP came and helped him out, got him into DDP yoga, definitely elongated his lifespan. I feel like he probably would have been dead well over 10, 15 years ago if it wasn't for DDP stepping in. But Hall was very open about his alcohol abuse, his drug abuse. And sadly, like, even though you can get rehabilitated, like, it will catch up over time. But this didn't really seem like a case of that. It really just seemed like a freak medical accident. So I guess just to sum everything up here, just, check on your people who are struggling. Just if people are going through drug and alcohol abuse, it's more important to really just make sure they receive help than to what their reaction might be. Hall was someone who was fortunate enough to accept the help, but some people won't. But you need to really just like force them to go get help, because thankfully Hall was able to get relatively clean and passed about 15 years after he probably would have. But he's just a massive loss of professional wrestling industry, just in every sense of the word. I'm devastated for Kevin Nash, for Triple H, for X-Pac, for all of his friends and family. And the world is just that much less cool and that much less brighter without him.
Exactly. And I couldn't sum it up any better. And you touched on how he helped so many guys in the back, put so many guys over, and so many guys have come out ever since he passed away and said he was one of the guys that I really learned from a lot. As you said, he was the one that created the Sting gimmick. And there's a lot of legends in the business. One specifically that I want to mention, The Rock, that really looked up to his work. And there's a reason for that. It's not just that they're saying that. There's a reason for that. And he is definitely one of the best to ever do it in the world of professional wrestling. And really his combination of character work and in-ring work is just not many guys have ever had that. And even though he didn't get the chance to hold a world title belt in WWE, he really cemented that Intercontinental Championship like no other. And it was really all him. I feel like it was really all him in that run because of, again, his character work and in-ring ability. And he just had a mind for professional wrestling like no other in terms of character work, as I said before. And so many guys, again, have come out and said how much he's helped them. And there's so many matches you could go off, but I'm gonna go off the one you went off as well, the Shawn Michaels ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship. That's one of the best matches of all time, not just in that era, of all time. And with wrestling becoming more advanced in this day and age, it still hangs up there as one of the better matches of all time. And that was near 30 years ago, or maybe a little more than that. So, I mean, Scott Hall did so much for the business, and really, when you look at what he did in WWE as Razor Ramon, that was one of the best gimmicks that we've ever seen, and just that cocky heel mentality and that just too cool mentality. That's like the perfect gimmick that I don't really think anyone else could pull off ever. There's not one name in my mind that can pull that gimmick off better than he did. And he really cemented his legacy in WWE. And then moving over to WCW, as you said before, him and Kevin Nash, they were the first ones to really jump ship from WWE to WCW. And they created the New World Order, which was one of the most memorable factions of all time, if not the most memorable faction of all time. And really, again, his creative mind with that Razor Ramon gimmick, making it what it was, with the New World Order, making that what it was. I mean, it was really just incredible. There's not many guys you could point to of all time, really, that had the creative mind that he did. And again, that just attests to how many guys looked up to him specifically when they were trying to be on the come up. Again, there were so many guys like that, and his in-ring work as well. A guy being 6'7" as he was, being that big, being able to hang with guys that are way smaller than him, also way bigger than him. It's just, that's something we also don't really see. And again, he never got that real shine as a world champion in WWE, but at that point, it was kind of okay, because he was a guy that was well respected, he was well cemented, and he was putting guys over consistently throughout his career, made the Intercontinental Championship prestigious, and was probably, I can't really think of the list off the top of my head, but definitely one of, if not the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. Because again, he did really form that title, and he did really it was him that cemented it. And it really has a lot to do with him. So, I mean, what he did for the business, again, just leveling up that title and his character work, putting guys over, being a mentor in the locker room, something that we'll never forget. And again, the world just feels so much different without him. And I can't imagine the pain that all those in the actual wrestling industry are feeling, losing Scott Hall, one of the best to ever do it. So again, it's really heartbreaking as a whole. And it's terrible news. And again, it's not something that I really expected at all. I mean, obviously, he did have substance abuse problems, but at the same time, I didn't expect it to come this soon. He did have that hip injury, but it's still heartbreaking, and it came to the shock of everyone. So, I mean, it's really just unpleasant and heartbreaking, and I don't really have any more words for his passing on that. So, again, he was just a legend of the business. We can both agree. Everyone could agree he was a legend for the business, and what he did was just unprecedented, and not many other people, even like the Hulk Hogan's and the Ultimate Warriors, as you said before, and like some other guys. I'll bring up some modern names like Cena. Like, they did so much for the business, but Scott Hall is just right up there, and he never got that shine the way those three guys did, and a plethora of others that I haven't even mentioned. So again, Scott Hall, the way that he transcended that title and really made the mid-card feel important while putting guys over is just tremendous. But we can move on to some lighter topics here, and I want to transition into Cody Rhodes officially signing with WWE. It's official at this point from what we've heard from the sources. So, I mean, I feel like it's kind of penciled in that whether he debuts tonight, next Raw, whenever, or at WrestleMania, he's going to face Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. I think that's kind of a given. But I kind of want to book it past that. So first of all, we've talked about this before, so I'll start with this one. What do you expect to see in Cody Rhodes' next WWE run?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing absolutely is they're going to give him at least a main title shot. It would not surprise me one bit if a part of his clause was to be the first ever whatever championship that they introduce after. I do think they're going to retire the Universal Championship and just unify the two belts and just keep the heavyweight one, because it was never really well received anyways. And I mean, it makes a world of this, like, it makes so much sense right now. If you want to bring back the big gold belt from WCW, which was the World Heavyweight Championship, if you want to bring that back and like make that your secondary world championship, there's no better person to put it on than Cody Rhodes, because his dad, Dusty Rhodes, was in every sense of the word the like embodiment of WCW and of Jim Crockett Promotions. So I think honestly, Cody, I mean, he obviously debuts against Seth Rollins. I mean, and that's been on the books for, I think, a little over 3 months at this point. Ever since we learned that Cody Rhodes was leaving WWE, that's been the match that's been penciled in. Whether or not that happens at WrestleMania or that happens tonight or next week, I have no idea. I'm going to be honest. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but this WrestleMania feels incredibly meh to me. There's really nothing that like gets me super hyped. So I would prefer if they debut him before. And so you could at least have 1 or 2 lead up things to it, because that'd like get me watching Raw again, which I can't really stomach right now. But I think Cody debuts, Cody beats Rollins. I don't think there's any way in hell that he would lose to Rollins on his opening night. If he does, then that is just a huge botch by WWE. Next night, kind of like how they did it a few years ago, they'll have a fatal 4-way for the number 1 contender for the like new title or the secondary title, and you'll have Cody win that. And then Cody will probably win the main title, like Money in the Bank. I mean, I think he probably has it written in his contract. He has to at this point. He wouldn't have signed with WWE if they weren't planning to push him as one of the faces of the company, which has been his dream since he was a kid. Because he really wants to like be the. I'm trying to remember. Did Dusty Rhodes ever win a world title or no?
I don't believe he did. I don't think so.
Yeah, so I think he's always wanted to like do that because his dad never won it. But I mean, I think it's going to be a very interesting way to kind of bring in kind of this new year of wrestling with Cody Rhodes potentially coming in.
Yeah, I agree. I think Cody Rhodes will most likely win a world title throughout his next WWE run. I think that's kind of a given. And really, they're doing this thing with Seth Rollins, and at this point, it feels like whoever it's going to be, like it's pretty much penciled in as Cody Rhodes, but like it's kind of obvious that it's going to be a big star because it's really they're centering one of the faces of their company around the storyline of, oh, I don't have a WrestleMania opponent, I need to find one, I need to be on the card, and they even put that in the main event last week on Raw. So it has to be someone big, and Cody Rhodes is really the only feasible name you could think of, unless they somehow brought John Cena back for a match, but I highly doubt that. But Cody Rhodes is really the most realistic and feasible name that they could put on the table. And that's probably going to be what it is. It probably, I would say 99.9999%. It's Cody Rhodes that faces Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. But I think with the world title, I'm not sure if they're going to bring in a new title or if they'll just do a thing. I could definitely see them doing something similar to when Seth Rollins was WWE champion and United States champion, where they could just have Roman Reigns have 2 matches on Backlash, whatever the next pay-per-view is after WrestleMania, then have him lose it. I could definitely see that. Maybe they have a match. I saw some booking online where it was he has a match against someone like Drew McIntyre that he gets screwed over, and then whoever he faces next from the Raw side for the WWE title, McIntyre screws him over to set up that next feud. So I could definitely see that happening as well. But I don't think that's the way, because I mean, they're unifying these titles for a reason. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm really uncertain on what's going to happen. But if anything, if they keep these titles unified for a while up until like SummerSlam, Cody Rhodes could definitely be the one to take those titles off of Roman Reigns and then potentially unify it, and then they bring in another title. That's something I could also see as well. But there's so many routes because we really don't know for sure what's going to happen in this unification match. And I don't want to get too into that, but again, with Cody Rhodes, I definitely see him winning a world title in his next WWE run. I would probably say he wins it by the end of the year. I think they're going to make it a big deal, and especially because we've talked about it before, they want to show these other AEW stars that when their contract's running out, WWE is an option, and they're willing to push them, and they're willing to get them to pry them away from AEW. So I think Cody Rhodes definitely will win a title, but we've already talked about in previous episodes what we expect to happen. So now I kind of just want to open the floor to you. Do you have any fantasy bookings? I know it's kind of putting you on the spot, but after WrestleMania, is there any fantasy booking you have for Cody Rhodes, something that you would like to see, like some storylines, some matches? What would you like to see?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much. Because truth be told, like once Cody wins that gold, I'm not really gonna like. There's not really much else I want. Cody's never really engrossed me that much in general, but he's always been someone I really like. It's just he's someone who I haven't really been engrossed by one of his storylines in a while. I'm trying to think if I have like anyone on the roster right now that I want to see him have a match with, but I mean, I think the obvious choice is Randy Orton, and that's just because, they were in Legacy together. They do have the backstory together. Same with guys like The Miz, Dolph Ziggler. They all have history together. But like, if you really just go into it right now, I think I really want to see. Man, it's tough because like you definitely have a hell of a lot of a storyline with Seth Rollins here, and that's why I kind of want to see him debut tonight or next week. Mainly because if they don't do it, like literally Seth Rollins, the whole thing could literally be your dad raised my hand when I won the NXT title. Like that literally could just be it. Because remember, Seth Rollins is the inaugural NXT champion. Dusty Rhodes raised his hand. But for Cody, like it makes it tough for me to like really think of any fantasy booking, especially since the main roster is effectively two guys right now. It's Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. So it really makes it hard for me to be interested. I do think down the line, Cody Rhodes Braun Breaker could be a money feud. I think the sooner they get Breaker up to the main roster, the better. I think Cody would be very interesting seeing his chemistry with Riddle, with Chad Gable. I'd love to see. I think there's a lot of potential to have Chad Gable in there. But yeah, there's really not much else for me to say. I don't really have much fantasy booking. I'm just excited to see him back.
There's actually a couple things that I'd like to see Cody Rhodes do. And one is I'm not sure how they would do this, but something I'd like to see potentially before he wins his world title is if they have Damian Priest who win at WrestleMania, win his title back against Finn Balor. And then you have Cody Rhodes versus Damian Priest for that title and have Cody Rhodes take it off Priest again. And then I feel like although you don't want to keep Cody strapped in that mid-card for too long, I think it'd be a good way to really bring that title back to relevancy. And really, Damian Priest did a great job with it. And I do like the feud they're doing with Finn Balor right now. I think it's a pretty great feud and one of the better feuds they could do on this roster for the United States title. But I think Cody Rhodes being that sort of Seth Rollins guy when he was Intercontinental Champion, or John Cena when he was United States Champion, being sort of that for a little bit, I think that could definitely work out because although not all WWE viewers watch AEW, I think when Cody Rhodes returns, he's bound to look strong regardless because he's the guy that's going to come in, face Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, and most definitely win that match. And then I think he's bound to just look strong regardless from the reaction he'll get from fans and the way they'll book him. I think you could have a route where he's United States champion for a couple months and really making that title relevant again, just putting on great matches with guys like potentially Chad Gable, as you said before, and the list goes on. I'm not sure how long he could hold that title, though. I think it would be a couple months, and then after he loses it, potentially like a triple threat or something, so he doesn't have to get pinned. Then you throw him into the main card. I think that could be a good way. Or you could, shoot him up to the main card, as we said before. I wouldn't hate that at all. But I think you definitely could get away with giving him a mid-card title run just to start, just so he makes those titles relevant once again. But something else that I'd be interested in is after WrestleMania, if he doesn't get that main card title shot, I would love to see him against Kevin Owens. I think that's a money feud all on its own. Those are two great workers on the mic and in the ring. I think that's a money feud. Both of them are very, very safe workers as well. So I think that's a feud that I would love to see. And just some matches as a whole. I'd like to see him against Drew McIntyre, this new Drew McIntyre that we've seen the past couple of years. I'd like to see that. I don't know if they ever really had a match. I can't really recall.
They were tag team champions.
Oh, they were?
Yeah. No one remembers it, but they were like a very short-lived tag team.
I don't even remember that myself, but potentially you could wrap a storyline around with that. I don't know. But
I'm going to confirm right now, but I'm pretty sure. Give me a second.
Because I don't remember that. It could definitely be a forgotten tag team, but
yeah, they are. Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre, the dashing ones. Wow. They were a short-lived tag team. They debuted on September 17th, 2010, and disbanded on October 29th, 2010. But they won and lost the tag team titles in that span.
Wow. I had no idea about that.
They won them off of Mark Henry and Evan Bourne, which I don't even remember. Oh, my God.
You learn something new every day. I don't remember that whatsoever, but you could – I feel like that's like too forgotten of the team to book a storyline around it, but I would like to see that match a lot as well. Another match I'd like to see is him against Edge, him against Roman Reigns, him against Brock Lesnar. Really, there's so many guys, AJ Styles as well. There's so many guys that you could book a match against. And I would also like to see, I feel like this would be more so, thinking about it now, if you go with the route of Cody Rhodes winning the U.S. title from Damian Priest, have him hold it for a couple months, and then potentially have him lose it again in a triple threat, but potentially, or it doesn't have to be a triple threat either, but you could have him in a storyline with Austin Theory. That's something I'd really like to see as well. And then you shoot him up to the main card as well. But there's so many guys, like even like a Sami Zayn, I'd love to see him against. There's just so many guys I'd love to see Cody Rhodes against in his next run, Finn Balor. So, I mean, I really don't think they could go too wrong with it unless they just throw him back in that mid card for good. Again, giving him that U.S. title, I think would give it an upper mid card feel, which is exactly what that U.S. title needs. So, I mean, I wouldn't be too against that at all. But again, there's so many options for Cody Rhodes. But we could go into WrestleMania 38 now. And one thing I want to talk about first, I don't know if you heard this, but right now, it's Kevin Owens versus Stone Cold Steve Austin is slated as the main event for night one. So I want to talk about that first. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, so that's the heavy rumor, and that's pretty much confirmed at this point. The insider who I've used in the past, he's a Reddit user who seems to actually work within the company. They've confirmed that the mods of the main wrestling subreddit, Squared Circle, confirmed that he does have a high up place in WWE. They're refusing to name who it is, but they're saying that he does have legitimate info. He's provided credentials, so he legitimately is an insider. And what he said was night one was going to be main evented by Austin and Owens. It was going to be opened by Belair and Belair and Lynch. And I think this is really interesting. I think this does away from the whole idea that it's just going to be a kick and a stunner. I think it's going to be a legitimate match now. I mean, you can't really have a main event that's like a segment. Like it doesn't really work for WrestleMania, but like a 3-minute match, that works. So I think that's pretty much confirmed at this point. That's going to be Owens and Austin. And man, just good for Kevin Owens, man. He was about to not sign with the company. They must have signed him, gave him a huge pay increase. He's now one of the top 10, top 5, maybe paid guys in the company. And he gets a WrestleMania main event against probably his childhood hero, but arguably the greatest professional wrestler of all time. So it's really interesting to just hear that that's what they're going with.
Yeah, and I didn't expect this. I thought this would be like a mid-show segment. What I expected when I heard it was going to be the KO show, I expected it to just be, I thought they were going to have a match, but I thought it was going to be a quick one, middle of the show. They have a KO show. Stone Cold suits up, takes off his clothes to reveal his gear, and then they have a quick 2-3 minute match, and Stone Cold wins, or even less than that. That's what I expected. But thinking about it more now, I'm not really too surprised that they're going to be main eventing it, because it's Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm surprised at the fact that Kevin Owens is going to be main eventing in WrestleMania, because that's not something I would have expected. But I'm not surprised because it's Stone Cold Steve Austin in that match. And when they had The Rock return those few times, he was main eventing, and it's clear that they want the big names in that event. So I'm not too surprised thinking about it, but when the news broke, I was surprised. But it's really great for Kevin Owens. I think it's an interesting take, and I think it's honestly the right decision, because having a guy like Kevin Owens who's really deserved something like this for years, even though the title's not on the line, he's deserved something like this for years, some real main card superstar level treatment, and he's getting that in a main event against one of the greatest to ever do it. So I'm not really too mad about that at all. But there's something else I want to talk about, and it's a segue into a different match, Edge versus AJ Styles. And this is a match I'm really excited about. I believe AJ Styles is returning tonight on Raw. They wrote him off TV for 2 weeks, I believe it was, and now he's returning. But I want to talk about Edge's new character, and I've really enjoyed it. Again, I love Metalingus. I wish they didn't get rid of it, but I do think for his new character, this new theme song kind of fits better. But first, before we get into really the match and the storyline, what are your thoughts on Edge's new character?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough because it's such a classic character. I mean, that song is probably one of the greatest of all time. But he reportedly did request it. It's not something that WWE shoved on him. He wanted to try something new. He wanted to have some more intrigue behind the AJ Styles story than just the "we haven't faced each other before, let's fight" storyline that WWE likes to do. I really like the theme song. I took a listen to it. It is still Alter Bridge. It's just the other side. And it's interesting because he's friends with the guys in the band after using that song for most of his career. So like he, totally was like, I have another, song from Alter Bridge that I want to use. They definitely let you use it. Can we do it? Because I guarantee you it's the same licensing fees and everything, because that's how it works with entrance music that's not made by the company. You have to pay a license fee every single time you use it. So he probably just did the swap for the character. I think it's interesting. I think Edge is someone who is never really going to get stale for me, but like if he wants to change something up, he's already like engraved in wrestling lore as one of the greats that he can really do whatever he wants right now, and his career won't be tarnished. And I really want to see like more of this interesting like dark side of Edge. I think it's an interesting character overall, and I have no complaints. I think it's just very interesting.
Yeah, I completely agree. This is like, I really like the take they're giving on it. It's not just a heel who's just wants to really like get what he wants. It seems more like just a broken character. Like it seems like he's broken. It's really believable too. Edge is one of the guys that could really pull it off. He just seems like a broken character, which is kind of perfect. And the way he's been cutting these promos feels, I don't really have a word for it. It feels kind of eerie, but the way he's been cutting these promos makes his character so much more believable than it could be. And I feel like he's the perfect guy to slot into this gimmick. And I'm honestly happy that he did request that again. I'm gonna miss Metalingus' old theme song, but I'm really happy that he did request a character change. And I don't really know where they're gonna go from this after the AJ Styles feud. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see. I'm not saying they're gonna fail with his character, but I want to see where they go with it because, like I don't know who else you could throw him against. Like what other faces that he hasn't fought yet? Maybe like a Drew McIntyre.
I mean, I think he goes off TV for a bit after this.
No, yeah, I
mean,
agree. But after he comes back,
after he comes back, I mean, they could really just like relaunch him as a face again. Like, there's not going to be an issue of doing that. There's not going to be like question marks or anything. If AJ Styles beats him decisively, which I'm pretty sure everyone kind of thinks is going to happen, just because it's been such an up and down year for AJ, and he needs to get some of his heat back, and Edge won't be harmed by a loss at WrestleMania. I think that AJ will win, and Edge will probably go off TV, maybe make a return at SummerSlam or something, but he really doesn't need to be on TV constantly anymore. Like, he's already done everything there is to do in the company, and like you don't want him to like take a spot of a young talent that's like trying to get some heat.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I definitely think he's going off TV after this. I could see him going back to face, but I think this is the character that they want to try out and test a little more because for the past couple of years, ever since he returned, it's really been before this character. It's been really the same Edge. It's like, oh, I need to get back what I never rightfully lost. I need to rewrite my career. I think this is a better Edge. I think they should hang on with it. I would really be interested in a Drew McIntyre feud. Say, I'm not sure how they would do it if it's going to be by SummerSlam. But it could be even a little after that, after the next brand split, where McIntyre could be a champion and then Edge, this version of Edge, comes back after that. Because that's also a match that's one of the last couple of Edge matches that we haven't seen that's really can be labeled as a dream match. That and like a Finn Balor. So that's something I'd like to see as well. But I really do dig and enjoy this new Edge character. And again, I'll say it again. I will miss Metalingus. That's my favorite WWE theme song of all time. But it's just, I think it does definitely fit this character. But there's a couple other matches on WrestleMania. I do feel like this is kind of a stale card, but we could go through a couple of them. We're not going to go through the bottom tier matches, but Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory. I'm not like too excited about this one, but I think this is a good place for Austin Theory on the card. So
yeah, I think it gives Austin Theory that mainstream rub. I think literally the whole reason why they're doing it is they recognize his potential, and they're gonna kind of let him get some like mainstream stuff on it. I guarantee you it's gonna get promoted on Pat's podcast. Also, they'll probably go on there and attack him. But I don't think it ends in any way than Pat McAfee winning decisively. I mean, he was so good in his debut match in NXT, to the point where he won like newcomer of the year from the Wrestling Observer, which never happens with guest celebrities. The guy's a freaking natural. He's so good. I think that the wide audience doesn't really understand how damn good he is, he's going to get a lot of people tuning in the match. I actually wouldn't be surprised if they put that on later in the night instead of an opener. I wouldn't be surprised if that was one of the matches right before the main event, because that match is going to have a lot of mainstream appeal. They've already had a lot of people interviewing Pat McAfee. He was, I believe he was on Rich Eisen recently talking about it. So is Stone Cold Steve Austin, but that one, there is a match though that was just announced that I think is worth talking about, because it was just announced maybe an hour or two ago, but Omos is going to be giving an open challenge. And the sources said that it wasn't who you would expect. And so I would like you to just guess who it might be before I tell you, unless you've heard this news already.
I have no idea. If it was like before the, I keep forgetting what it's called, but whatever Braun Strowman's doing right now, if it was before that, I would probably say they were re-signing Braun Strowman.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been what I was opting for as well, honestly. It probably, if Braun didn't do Control Your Narrative, I probably would have said that.
Yeah.
No, they're saying Bobby Lashley has already healed from his neck surgery.
Ooh, wow.
Like less than 2 months later. So that's freaking crazy to me. But it was confirmed by by not the same insider, but from insiders who were reporting the Fightful. So they did say card subject to change. So if there's a setback in his recovery, they're going to probably pull a different guy. And honestly, I think you see that's where Braun Breaker comes in. I really think that should have been reserved for Braun Breaker. I think it makes the most sense for him to topple a giant at WrestleMania and then like be able to make it on the main roster. Another report coming out that Omos is likely going to be among the next set of releases. They've tried everything they could with him, and he's just not agile enough. He's not good enough as a worker, and it sucks because like he seems like a really liked guy. Like he seems like a nice guy. It's just like at his size, there's no agility, and you're basically just effectively a walking cinder block. So you can't really like move. His kicks are pretty stiff. He kind of looks like the second coming of Giant Gonzalez and the Great Khali out there. So that's a report. So honestly, seeing Bobby Lashley take him off TV permanently is definitely a possibility.
Yeah, honestly, I could see that. Bobby Lashley just comes in and decimates him because, I mean, again, they've tried everything they can, but it's not really a believable guy you could put behind, put in the main card title because, I mean, again, it's just his in-ring work is not that great. His mic work is not that great. And he doesn't need the mic work right now, and there's still ways to develop it, but I don't see any feasible way he develops that really anytime soon. I feel like they're just beating a dead horse with trying to develop him, and it sucks that he's getting released, but I mean, Bobby Lashley writing him off TV with an easy win, or even Braun Breaker, I think those are two pretty great options to throw him against. So I could definitely see that. I didn't expect Bobby Lashley to be back this quick, though. That's kind of shocking to me. I thought he was going to be back probably around like Money in the Bank. I thought they were going to take their time with him, but I mean, it is pretty great to see him recovering that quickly from this injury. So that's great to hear. But that's pretty interesting. Did WWE fully announce it?
No, it's just Fightful reported it. They said he's
Okay.
going to announce it like tonight. He's going to have a squash match and just say no one can beat me.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense if you want to get Bobby his heat back. Like, my worry, though, is that it ends up being something where, I mean, I think the only way you could go with it is Bobby Lashley versus Cody Rhodes for that vacant belt or for the extra belt.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at that point, you have to have Cody win that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't want to kill his heat the second he gets there. And Bobby has already had the world championship a lot recently. So, like, you don't want to oversaturate him to the wide audience. But having Bobby come back and, like, decimate Omos is definitely a possibility.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening as well.
Also, just like, you know, I'm sorry to cut you off, but just like to think about it in the big picture, like, Lord, what a second run for Bobby Lashley in the company. Like, he really, everything until the Hurt Business was pretty crappy. But then, like, once the Hurt Business formed, man, it's been like a 1.5 span. The guys had like 2 or 3 separate world title runs with him. Had a pretty long, lengthy one through WrestleMania, even. Lost to Big E, then got it back from Brock Lesnar, lost it to Brock Lesnar. It wasn't even pinned by Brock Lesnar. The guy's been booked ridiculously strong. It's over with the wide audience now. So just really good for him. Just really happy for the guy who seems to like have an insane work ethic, like John Cena style work ethic. So that's probably why he's coming back so quickly.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this today too. Bobby Lashley, his second run in WWE has been incredible. And obviously they had that Rusev feud and all that before. We're not going to talk about that. But after that, once they paired him with MVP and created the Hurt Business, he won the U.S. title and really made it seem relevant at the time. Then he did. I forgot how he dropped it. I remember, but it was in a smart way. It still made him.
He
look
dropped
strong.
the title to Riddle.
Yeah, but how wasn't it?
It was originally a planned three-way match.
Yeah,
Three people, triple
Lee,
threat,
right?
with Keith Lee, but then Keith Lee got COVID.
Yeah.
And then they kind of had to just fill it in. So
Yeah,
understandable that was kind of crappy ending. And then, oh my God, I don't remember what he did. Oh, later that night, he came out and speared Drew McIntyre, and that was when the Miz cashed in.
Yeah. So that, I mean, they threw him from U.S. champion to squashing the Miz as WWE champion. So that was pretty great to see. Now at this point, in the beginning of his WWE title run, it kind of felt like he was a transitional champion to McIntyre because it felt like they wanted to give McIntyre that shine at WrestleMania because the year before there were no fans. But after he beat McIntyre and beat him in that feud, it really cemented him it made him feel like a solidified star, which he never really felt like in his career. It made him feel like that. He has the look. He's always had the look. He's always had the in-ring ability, but the booking behind that and putting him in the Hurt Business and making him feel serious and legitimate, it just made him feel a whole world better. So that was, again, his run's been great since coming back. But before we end off the show, there's one match that it's not one of the main event matches, but there's one match that also did just get announced today by WWE that I do want to talk about. And it doesn't seem like a big match, but I want to touch on it a little bit because I think there's a lot of realistic scenarios, a lot of creative scenarios, I should say, with this match. And that's RK Bro defending their tag team titles against the Street Profits and Alpha Academy. Again, this doesn't look like the greatest or most eye-popping match on paper. I think it's going to be a really good one, but I think after this, there's a lot of creative scenarios, and I think this is one of the most unpredictable matches on the card. So I want to hear your take on this match and really what could happen next. Because
I'm so damn excited for this match. I think all three teams are going to go. This match is one that like minimum needs 20 minutes. I'm so excited for it. I mean, like I'm really, really, really just fully excited for RK Bro here. Excited for Street Profits. I think Street Profits need to win it here. Get the titles off of RK Bro. If you want to have a split up angle at WrestleMania, you could. But I don't really think it's the way to go. But I think it's the Street Profits moment. They're so over with the crowd. It'd be like a huge dumb mistake not to do it. As far as what they could do with the rules, I kind of want to see a Texas Tornado match, which really is just all competitors are legal at all times. It makes no sense to go in Texas. It makes sense. But they could also do a tag team ladder match, but they did that a few years ago, and it was okay, but it wasn't great. That was when the Hardys returned. But I'm just excited for this match, honestly. It could be a show stealer.
Yeah, I think this should be a ladder match, and I do think the Street Profits should win as well. I agree with you there. But I kind of feel like there are a lot of creative ways to go about the after this match, especially with RK Bro breaking up. I don't think they should break them up at WrestleMania or really like the night after. I think it should be a slow burn, them trying to regain those titles, and they just can't. And then, I don't know, I haven't really thought of the booking completely off the top of my head. But I think it should be a slow burn after them losing the titles and then a match at either Money in the Bank or SummerSlam or really just a summer feud between them. That's what I like to see. In terms of the Street Profits winning, though, I think there's a lot of realistic and creative options for this as well because if Bianca Belair wins the title against Becky Lynch, which I think is pretty much inevitable at this point, you could definitely have them form a three-way faction and potentially turn them all heel at one point. And I also feel like that you can call me crazy, but I feel like the Street Profits versus Alpha Academy could be a really, really, really great feud. And I'm talking like one of the best modern tag team feuds.
Oh, it would be hilarious. I think all four of the guys have ridiculous chemistry. I think honestly, this is probably the most vivid, like, and life and like full character division that they've had on Raw in a very long time. Because also the Viking Raiders are still there, correct?
They're on SmackDown.
Okay. I mean, as far as Raw goes, having Alpha Academy, RK Bro, and Street Profits as your three main teams, like it could be a lot worse. And it's a really solid group right there.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And I really feel like this could, I'm not going to put it on this level, but I could feel like it could be the Street Profits versus Alpha Academy. I feel like that could be the next New Day versus the Usos because that feud and match will never get stale. That's a match I would always like to see. If they throw it on a card for 10 weeks straight, I wouldn't be mad. But I feel like this could sort of be that next version of that. Have them have like three, 4 matches throughout the next couple months. And really, these guys are all great on the mic, and they're all great in the ring, and they all have so much, especially Alpha Academy. And even both of them, actually. I think they really fit in evenly with this. I think they have so much charisma to really make that tag team division feel so good. And it would really develop both teams into feeling like they do feel like legitimate teams already, but it could really develop them even more so and sort of kickstart that next era of tag team wrestling for WWE. So I really want to see them go for a long, blown-out feud between Alpha Academy and the Street Profits. I feel like that would be one of the feuds of the year, honestly, for WWE. If they booked it correctly, I feel like that could be one of the feuds of the year. And then after that feud happens, then you could turn the Street Profits heel as champions. But I feel like that could be a show stealer. And I really want to see them prolong that feud and center that tag team division on Raw around them while RK Bro breaks up. So I'm really excited for that match and what happens after it. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Off the Top Rope Show. Again, subscribe to the TWSN YouTube channel. You don't want to miss out on any of our live shows or video breakdowns. Also, download the TWSN mobile app to access all of our articles and content from our team of 50+. Follow the TWSN Twitter and Instagram. It's NFL Free Agency. It's wrapping up, but you can still get all your updates on those accounts. So go follow us there and subscribe to the TWSN Betting Patreon, where you chip in a couple bucks, you get a couple bucks. It's that simple. So this has been the TWSN Off the Top Rope Show. We will see you guys next week. Peace.
Get up, let me begin. This is TWSN.